We'll go ahead and get started, Lou, if you are ready. Welcome everyone to today's Ask the Expert. We have Lou Lopez, the head coach and manager at the University of Virginia, talk about donation horses and rehoming. So with that, I will turn it over to Lou. I will ask that everyone goes on mute so we don't have cut down any of the background noise, and then Lou will present and we'll have opportunity for questions at the end. If you have something that's burning and you just need to ask it right now, you can use the chat feature and we'll monitor that as we go along. And with that, thank you, Lou, for offering to do this today, and turn it over to you.
Okay, and just so everybody else knows on the call, these girls are pretty slick at getting people to volunteer to do things. But all seriousness, I'm happy to do this. You know, the horses are a big part of all of our programs. You know, when people hear donations, they think free. Donations are not free. There is a considerable cost involved in acquiring donations, and once you acquire them, you know, maintaining them throughout the rest of their useful life for your programs. Now, depending on whether you're a collegiate program or a high school program, many of the collegiate programs are able to utilize the tax-deductible status of their universities. They need to check with their club sports advisors to see how to do that. If you are a high school program, really the only way to do it is to establish your own 501c3 corp. There's a cost involved to doing that. There are annual filings you have to do every year. So it's a commitment, you know. If you're only in it for the short term, I would advise against it. Okay, let's talk about the needs. When you're looking for a specific horse, are you looking for safe, quiet horses to do walk trot lessons, more advanced horses for club scrimmages, or are you looking for tournament quality horses that can compete at the regional and national levels? So it's important to match the donation with the actual need. And then to determine those needs, you have to ask a lot of questions. You know, for example, you want to know about the soundness of the animal. You can certainly ask the donor what issues they may or may not have had with that particular horse. You can also ask to have a vet take a look. Nowadays, you know, with the change in USPA policy and doing jogs at the preliminary, regional, and national level, you want to make sure that if that horse is going to be competing, that it's going to be able to pass that jog. And then you want to also find out about, you know, behavioral issues. Does the horse pull back at the tie line? Is it a kicker, cribber? Is the animal girthy, hard to catch? A leaper? You know, one major problem, I've had a number of them over the years, is horses that will actually freeze in the throw-in. They can be a little dangerous. You know, the idea is you want an animal that's going to be safe for the kids that you're mounting to be able to use and utilize. And sometimes, you know, horses are put out there for to be donated because they have some issues that the owner no longer wants to deal with. And you want to make sure that you're able to deal with that horse before you accept it into your program. All right, let's talk about the tax deductible status. I have a form that I use, and you can get this off of the UVA website. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a general form that I developed. Gives you the date of the donation, the name of the horse donor, address, phone number, and then we get into the value of the donated horse. Now, as far as value goes, there's two options. There's an under $5,000 option, which is a simple donation. As much as possible, if you can get a simple donation, it's easier for you to deal with. If you're talking about a $5,000 and up donation, there are some IRS issues that you will need to comply with in order to for the donor to be able to realize that donation. Now again, the under 5,000, it's a simple letter that the university or whoever is maintaining the 501c3 Corp sends out thanking for the donation. It's kept with the donor's tax return given to their whoever does their financial taxes for them. And it's very important that they keep that. But it allows the school or the entity to be able to dispose of the horse at any time, give it away to somebody else. There's no additional filings necessary. The big question that will be asked a lot of times is, what kind of a deduction am I going to get? It really depends on the individual's tax status. So that's not a question that you or I or should be answering or even inferring to. You want to let them go talk to their tax advisor and they can determine that value. If you go above the $5,000 mark for the donation, there's an IRS form called the 8283. You can Google that and download it off of the computer. That must be completed by the donor. An appraisal needs to be done, a formal appraisal needs to be done on the horse. And the appraiser needs to sign the form. And I advise the donor to make sure they get a written appraisal that they keep for their files. It doesn't have to be filed with the IRS. But if there was ever to be an audit, they would want to see that appraisal. So make sure that that is done. Again, the school doesn't need a copy of it. It's the donor that needs a copy of it. Once those two areas on the 8283 form have been completed, it can then go to the school. They will sign off on it and send it back to the donor to again file with their taxes. Now, with this second option, there does come a bit of due diligence. You're required, the school is required to maintain this horse for 3 years. If for some reason during that period of time, for whatever reason, the horse is not sound any longer through maybe an accident, and you want to dispose of the horse, there is an additional form called the 8282. It's a little bit more involved. That needs to be completed, and a copy is sent to the IRS, and then a copy is sent to the actual donor so that they have it. But you do need to track the horse for a full 3 years. So it's a little bit more involved. It takes a bit of record keeping to do so. Here at Virginia, we'll accept both. We'd like to get them as simple donations. Sometimes you can't. And the other thing is, if you're accepting more than one horse from an individual and they value those horses under $5,000, but the aggregate amount is over $5,000, and even if they donate one in September and another one in October and another one in December, so that's three, say $4,500 donations within that year's period. When you do a filing for those, that's going to be over the $5,000 threshold, so that 8283 form is going to have to be filled out for them to realize the 3 horse donations. But just remember that it's not just, okay, I'm going to get 5 horses from you. Just value them under the $5,000 mark and we can make it a simple donation. It doesn't work that way. So it becomes the aggregate value of the number of horses from a specific donor that you receive within a given tax year. So just remember that in the process. Now, how do you get donations? Word of mouth, social media. I've put pleas out on Facebook from time to time. Virginia's looking to add to their string. In Florida, there's a publication called The Morning Line. I've put ads in that and received donations that way. And you can also speak with the II staff. They can spread the word around that a specific school is looking for donations. And I know people have been helped that way. What else do I have here? The other thing to consider when you're accepting these horses is, once they're donated to you and once they step off the trailer, they're yours and there's an expense to that. So you want to make sure that you're prepared to take care of that. There's going to be worming costs, shoeing costs, and all of these happen before you've even had a chance to do anything with the horse. It is very important that you get as much information as possible about the animal, particularly about their behavioral issues, so that you know what you're dealing with when you get that animal. Smaller programs may want to consider looking to get loaner horses that takes those horses off the individual owner's feed bill for the winter. You use them during the school year and then return them to the individual in the spring. That can save you quite a bit of money because, again, once those horses are given to you, you're responsible for them 24/7. So it's not like, you go home for Christmas from school and you put 5 horses in a field and throw them a couple of round bales and see them in 3 or 4 weeks. It just doesn't work that way. So, you need to be responsible for the health and welfare of that particular horse. In some cases, I've gotten horses, they've come off the trailer and they were down in weight. So, I've had to turn them out and, invest 6 months of, pasture, grain, worming, before I even had a chance to evaluate the usefulness of that particular animal. So, make sure you know what you're getting before you get it. And then after they're done, you have to look at what are you going to do with this horse? We've been, since the COVID issues started last March, April, we've been looking to downsize our herd, and it became more important to do so during that period of time. And it's a hard thing to do. You know, you get attached to these horses and you want them to have good homes, but that's not an easy process. It takes a lot of effort locally to contact different individuals to see if they'll take horses as, you know, pasture ornaments, companion horses. In some cases, you know, the horses may be older. They're still sound enough to do, you know, trail riding, walk trot lessons, those type of things. You know, they can end up in a therapeutic riding program, potentially. In some cases, we've sent horses to individuals that have summer camps, and they're doing walk trot lessons for beginners, so the horses can be utilized in that manner. And then the other thing, which in my opinion is kind of a noble thing to do, rather than sending the horse off on a trailer where the horse may end up in Canada or Mexico, to have the horse put down, and, you know, maybe bury them on the farm or something in that manner. And we've done that to a number of horses that we just didn't want to see or worry about ending up in that type of a situation. And it's a hard thing to do, but it's you know, part of dealing with these older horses. And generally we're getting, you know, horses from individuals. This is the horse's second career, might even be their third career. Maybe they started out as a racehorse, became a polo pony for somebody for a number of years. The horse is, you know, in its mid-teens. And so they end up in a college program or a high school program for maybe another 5 or 6 years, maybe more. And so generally you're the one that's going to end up having to make those tough decisions on where that horse is going to go after that. So think about that when you accept a trailer load of horses down the road. That's all I have specifically. Oh, I have also developed a kind of a guideline. It's also on my website. It talks about you know, giving your horse to a good home. And what we do here at Virginia, we explain the tax options, option 1 or 2. And this is good for the potential donor to download when they're making a decision as to whether or not to donate the horse to your program or to any program for that matter. So I would suggest you consider doing that. And have the, you know, the individual read that carefully before they make a decision to donate a horse to your program. That's all I have formally. I don't know if anybody has any questions. So I'll open it up to anybody. Robin, I see you're there. You must have a few questions. Maybe not.
No questions.
Lou, who do you usually see if you ever get appraisals? Who do you recognize the people that do it? Is there a formal appraiser that people use? Do they just use pros? What have you seen before?
Well, they should use, and there are a few of them out there, certified appraisers. You know, there's a fee involved in that, but again, you know, if the IRS comes knocking on your door, you want to make sure you kind of dotted your I's and crossed your T's. So it is very important. there is one appraiser that advertises in Polo magazine, which I know I've recommended people utilize. I guess you can use a professional, and they, as long as they do an evaluation, sign it. I'm sure that that type of appraisal will work as well. But there are some certified appraisers out there. One, I actually spoke with one not too long ago in Houston. I don't remember the woman's name off the top of my head, but she was calling specifically about, this was actually the first polo pony she was doing an appraisal for. But the person that advertised in Polo magazine has been doing it for quite some time and is pretty reputable.
When you have the two donations that are both under 5,000 and you have to do that other form, do you need an appraisal on those or only anything that's above the 5,000?
No, I would say you would need an appraisal
Okay.
on each of those, yeah. Because it's would be required, they're gonna have to complete this 8283, it's called a non-cash charitable contribution form. And there is a place on that form for an appraiser to sign. So yes, written appraisals would be needed, and they should be kept by the donor. Remember, you as someone that's accepting this donation, you don't want to imply a value. It needs to be done by the donor themselves or someone once removed from the donor. Anyone else?
Do you have any advice for some of our newer schools that struggle with finding donations? How you might cultivate those relationships a little bit for a newer program?
Having been here for 18 years and with the reputation that Virginia has, I haven't really had to struggle with that. Although, I have gone to Florida for the spring meetings and driven a truck and trailer down, put the word out through different people that I know in Florida, put ads in the morning line. So, I've gone down cold without really knowing whether I'm going to come back with a full trailer or not. I've never come back empty. And if I'm there for 3 or 4 days, I'm going from field to field watching matches during, the open and just spreading the word. So it's amazing what you can get by, just through word of mouth. So that does work.
Yeah.
But if you can establish, particularly with a high goal team, then it becomes a little easier because then they will have developed a relationship with you, and those horses will come directly to you on an annual basis. Although I seem to be finding less horses these days now that they're only playing them for 2 minutes at a time. They seem to last longer at the high goal level because of that.
Yeah.
But it's still a good outlet for soliciting donations from.
Awesome. And I think Robin messaged me. I think she had something to ask.
I was going to say, yeah, Lou is so well known. He gets great horses like Mancha, and all those wonderful animals. One thing to do is for the students, if you can, when you go home for the summer, seek out a polo club near you, go make friends. And just, hey, just so you know, we take mallets, horses, cash, all kinds of donations. And another thing is to recognize the donors and, put up a Facebook post. Oh, here's Sparky. She was donated by Brad Peachy Von Gucci. We love her because she turns really quick. Or have somebody that especially likes that horse write a letter to the donor and just say, oh, I love Sparky. She's just fabulous. This is why, blah, blah, blah. So it's really important that once you do get the donations to recognize the donors.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you follow Virginia Polo. Jessica, my assistant coach and barn manager, has been doing a great job taking pictures of each of the horses and featuring them, 1 or 2 a week during this, quieter time. So that was a great thing that she did, and it's something we'll continue doing. I think it started more because we had the time when we were first shut down and had to kick all the students out of here in March. But I believe it'll be a useful tool going forward because the donors can then kind of see that their horses are being well cared for.
No, I've really enjoyed your all's Facebook recently. It's been awesome, especially with the ponies.
Last call for questions.
This is Carolyn Stemmel. I have a question. Lou, could you give some thoughts on when you get that new horse in, the evaluation process and integrating them into the program, and just what you found works and doesn't work, and say the horse is sticky in the throw-in. How long does, in your tenure or what you've seen, to get that horse to the tournament level, which I realize is a long time, but just integrating that horse, because that's the part of this I think people don't realize how long it takes.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. It's a commitment, and depending on, like I said, depending on the condition of that horse when it steps off the trailer, it may need 2 or 3 months turnout because they're just coming off of a high goal season, their brain is a little bit fried, and they need the time off. So you have to be willing to invest in that. If they're a little down in weight, you're feeding them back up again. You're worming them. You're doing vaccinations potentially on those horses. And I used to be one of the ones to get on those horses when they first got here. I don't do that anymore. And I picked some of the boys in my, at the varsity level to do that and see what we've got once we're, because if they've been turned out for 3 months, we're now having to condition them. So they may be ponied for 3 or 4 weeks. And then we start short working them and introducing them into chuckers. And at that point, we're getting an idea of what this horse is. We've actually been doing that this summer with a few horses. I try and wait to do it in the summer and put them into our arena program to see what they are. And some of them, we need to evaluate the bit that we're using. Some of them are a bit strong and they may start it. I've had horses come that were very, very strong, but the boys can play them. And they may have just started being horses that we used in practices, not horses that I would use in match games. other than maybe internal scrimmage matches. I wouldn't put those horses initially in, say, an II fall qualifying game yet. But once we have a track record with the horse and feel comfortable, that would be the next step. The horse could be in the boys' string for 2 or 3 years, move down to the girls' string, and when the girls are done with them, they go into our beginner lesson program in some cases. So these horses can have a long life in your program, but it does come with that first initial evaluation. In some cases, after having done all that, we're looking at trying to find a new career for some of them, because some of them mentally just never settle into being safe enough anyway. I mean, the boys can play, get a chucker out of them, and horses leaping, running down the field or the arena, and it adds an extra horse to the program, but they may never be something that you'd want to put a visiting player on to be able to, that's going to want to compete flat out.
Thank you.
Great. Doesn't seem like there's any more questions coming your way. I'm just sharing this next week. Thank you, Lou, again for taking the time to put this all together for everyone. Again, those forms that he pointed out are available on the Virginia website. And next week, our meeting will be Thursday. We do have a new time. It is going to be 2 o'clock Eastern, not noon. So 2 o'clock new time next week. And we have 2 fabulous fundraising ideas for your club. And we have Amy James from the University of Wisconsin and Caleb Palukas from the University of Michigan that will be here to share their ideas with you. So thank you, Lou, again. And thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Welcome.
Thank you, Lou.
Have a nice day.